How's it going, everybody? My name is Carson Reed with CinemaMotions, and I have updated it once again, this time with more debug channels, so that way you can easily see what you're messing with. I've also got this simple node group, which if you see right here, Control-Alt-J, if you click on that, it ungroups everything that's inside and immediately pops the entire node setup for you. So I've also updated the roughness sliders so that way they're more representative of how the base principle BSDF works. So positive values make it rougher, negative values make it glossier. I've also added iridescence support, and one thing that I'm going to be kind of putting out feelers for is a baking section. So that way you can bake out the entire texture set, take it into Unreal, Unity, Maya, whatever you name it, and you'll be able to get this shader's results inside of other programs. So we'll really quickly just hit our quick little keybinds here, Control-Alt-J, and you'll see we have the detail texture controller up here. So this is where you would go in and adjust your normals. So if you want to use Quixel Megascans, all you have to do is go into the normal inverter, normal inverter, and you would just hit these little panels down here, and you can flip the invert channels for them. So that way, again, if you're using Megascans, you would just set these all to 0. But since I'm using the Destiny 2 textures from in-game, I leave these at the default. So I'll make that clearer in the documentation. But I've also made some of these a little bit simpler. In here we have now our zoned debug controls, so we can see the armor, cloth, and suit. We also added the iridescence. So if your object and material has an iridescence to it, certain shaders will have it, certain armor pieces might have it by default. You can just turn this on, and a quick way to check is to just preview your specular here. If it's black on most of the pieces, and then an iridescent value on it, then you would just turn this up to 1. In the roughness, this is where you can control things, and I'm going to update the default values to be a little bit clearer. Again, you still have the bool operation to turn them on and off. Pretty helpful there. Normal controls have stayed the same, normal zone have stayed the same, and bump controls have also stayed the same. In terms of setting up a character, it's a lot easier now, and I've figured out the kind of shortcut into getting all your textures loaded into this node group here, and then we'll go through that here in a second. So we'll just delete that, and this is what it might look like when you're done. So this BSDF goes right after the player gear shader, and the texture amper gets fed in between. So you would replace your diffuse, G-Stack, and G-Stack alpha. These other values that are coming off are really only there to feed into this main node without having to add any new ones onto this. And then this also prevents you from having to have a cable dragging out across from over here. So that way you don't got to go, and then do the same thing with the die maps. Even if your character, the model doesn't have a die map texture, still feed this through. It's multiplying up against a 0 value, which is important in terms of how to get these debug zones out. So just keep that in mind. We will really quickly just kind of reset this. So this is what you'll get by default. Hold on, let me plug these in real quick. So this is what you get by default. And the quick way to do this, you just hit append setup, Control-Alt-J, and just like that, everything is appended, and you don't have to do anything crazy. First thing is to take the diffuse texture. So using Alt and then right-clicking, you can drag, Alt, right-click the G-Stack, and then do the same thing with the die map. Now you have an alpha and a die map alpha left, so you can just, again, Alt, right-click, drag the alpha of the G-Stack and the die map, and it will fill that in. So that's pretty easy. Diffuse to diffuse, G-Stack, G-Stack, G-Stack alpha. And then as for connecting it into the player gear shader, or from the player gear shader, excuse me, just do the same thing. Do it 7 times until it fills in up to the bake normal map. If you do it any additional times, it'll start putting things in random spots, which we don't want. Then you can hit Control-Shift-T or just drag it manually. It's up to you. After that, your character is set up. And so if we take a look at our chest here, and then I'll also select our lighting system here. We'll go into local mode. Let me actually turn on screencast keys for you. Well, let's see. Guess it doesn't want to work. Anyways, when we go into, oh, there it goes. Nice. When it goes into this, again, I'm going to update the default values so that way they're a little bit more representative of what I think it should look like. If you click on independent controls, this just sets it to whatever this has set up by default. If we go into the debug and we see the specular, this is what I'm talking about. So you can see that this is all black except for the iridescent stuff. So you can go into the BSDF controls tab here and just turn on the factor. And immediately you'll have your iridescence back, which is nice. We'll go into the independent controls, and I've updated these so that way they do go into the negative values, properly reflecting how the base principled BSDF works. So -3. Now this character is kind of a not great example, only because it only has armor and suit wear. But you can very quickly and easily see what I'm messing with and how it's actually affecting it. And again, you can turn this on and off. And these are fully customizable, so if you wanted more roughness or less, oh, I gotta get the muscle memory back, but you can adjust it any which way that you'd like. The rain effects will still come into play the same exact way, so it'll make everything wetter, glossier, and I'm still working on how to set up like a XY lock, because right now if the character moves, it just stays going down in the Z, which is technically correct, but also, you know, not. So I will be diving into that a little bit later, but that's going to be a huge pain in the butt. So into the suit roughness, you can see we still have our infinite detail. So if we up this roughness, boom, bada bing, and make it a little glossier, boom. Yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of updating the shader. But iridescence control is now there. I think I might have already mentioned this, but I am going to be working on a baking section, so that way you can actually take your principled BSDF and do what you'd like. So you can export it into Blender and handle it in there if you'd like. And we'll do a normal map from here. And then a mission. I hate that they put all of these behind panels, but you can see that this now has a little bit more of that control, and we can still adjust these things. So if I am going to do the baking, it might take some time because I've got to invert the values, because I'm using a glossiness setup more similar to Unreal Engine and Unity, as opposed to Blender's base BSDF stuff. So I'll work on that, but that's only if y'all request it, because it is kind of a huge pain in the butt, because I got to do like gamma inversions, the green channel inversion as well, just to prevent users from having to learn how to do that inside of Unreal or whatever. So yeah, that's a quick update on the setup here, and this will be uploaded by the time you see this video. So just go into that Google Drive and grab the D2 BSDF read, and you'll be good to go. Peace.